Well, hello and welcome back. I'm starting to reread some books that I read in the past few years. I've been an Italo Calvino fan for years now. And he commented on what Giacomo Leopardi maintained that the more vague and imprecise language is, the more poetic it becomes. And note that as far as he knows, Italian is the only language in which the word vago, which is vague in Italian, also means lovely and attractive. And starting on from the original meaning of wandering, the word vago still carries an idea of movement and mutability, which in Italian is associated both with uncertainty, indefiniteness, and gracefulness and pleasure. And Italy is a complicated country, and so is Italo Calvino. And when someone says to me, let's get together, I'd like that, I always say, no, you wouldn't. I do enjoy watching old movies, and by old I mean around the 1930s to the 1970s, as there were quite a few great movies made in that period. But there's one child actor that I cannot watch. It's Shirley Temple. I don't know who decided that she should be a star in any movie, but this was the way it was back then. And if you have to be honest, don't tell me. I'd rather hear a lie. There's more of a story in a lie than there is in the truth. And everyone lies. It's a protective mechanism and or a way to exaggerate life itself. And much of life is boring and predictable. And when you think of comedy or comedic scenarios, you can't forget the fact that comedy is based on negativity, misfortune, and folly. Comedy is an alternate segment of reality, providing a soothing and calming effect and bringing people together not to laugh at someone in particular, but to laugh or smile at a disjointed situation because they do happen and quite frequently. So my wife knows that I'm not going to win any awards with my gift giving. I'm a horrible shopper. So she told me that she would buy her own gift for Mother's Day, and she purchased an Everich non-stick coating finish kitchen knives, 6 pieces, and on the back side of the package it provides a description of each knife, such as the sturdy side of the blade can be used to break up small bones or break open crustaceans. And one of the other knives was described as such. The back part of the cutting edge is used for foods that are difficult to cut through. A little warning sign here. The transmission of power is optimal. It makes you wonder. So I'm going to be very nice and cordial with her just in case. And I hope they get to see Father's Day next month if I survive. I assume that Whoopi Goldberg is Jewish, right? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Her name is Whoopi Goldberg, and I realize that it's none of my business. In the definition of modern society now in the US, we're shoppers. That's what we've been relegated to. And that's all we're good for at this point. We get into our cars, go shopping for crap that we don't need, and search for bargains, sales, and other bullshit that has absolutely no significance. And you have to ask yourself, where do we go from here? Now, some quotes from Nassim Nicholas Taleb from his book, The Bed of Procustes. It was a very good book. An idea starts to be interesting when you get scared of taking it to its logical conclusion. Pharmaceutical companies are better at inventing diseases that match existing drugs rather than inventing drugs to match existing diseases. Academia is to knowledge what prostitution is to love, close enough on the surface, but to the non sucker, not exactly the same thing. And in science, you need to understand the world. In business, you need others to misunderstand it. Education makes the wise slightly wiser, but it makes the fool vastly more dangerous. The test of originality for an idea is not the absence of one single predecessor, but the presence of multiple but incompatible ones. That's a kind of a complicated one. An erudite is someone who displays less than he knows. A journalist or consultant, the opposite. Your brain is most intelligent when you don't instruct on what to do, something people who take showers discover on occasion. Those who think religion is about belief don't understand religion and don't understand belief. Work destroys your soul by stealthily invading your brain during the hours not officially spent working. Be selective about your professions. Using as an excuse others' failure of common sense is in itself a failure of common sense. There's no intermediate between ice and water, but there is one between life and death, and that's employment. I can relate to that. You have a calibrated life when most of what you fear has the titillating prospect of adventure. Procrastination is the soul rebelling against the entrapment. Nobody wants to be perfectly transparent, not to others, certainly not to himself. The best revenge on a liar is to convince him that you believe what he said. It is harder to say no when you really mean it than when you don't. Your reputation is harmed the most by what you say to defend it. They will envy you for your success, for your wealth, for your intelligence, for your looks, for your status, but rarely for your wisdom. Most of what they call humility is successfully disguised arrogance. The most painful moments are not those we spend with uninteresting people. Rather, they are those spent with uninteresting people trying hard to be interesting. I like that one. The characteristic feature of the loser is to bemoan, in general terms, mankind's flaws, biases, contradictions, and irrationality without exploiting them for fun and profit. Hatred is so much harder to fake than love. You hear of fake love, but never fake hate. The opposite of manliness isn't cowardice, it's technology. Usually, what we call a good listener is someone who's with skillfully polished indifference. It is the appearance of inconsistency and not its absence that makes people attractive. By praising someone for his lack of defects, you are also implying his lack of virtues. Being unimaginative is only a problem when you are easily bored. For the compassionate, sorrow is more easily displaced by another sorrow than by joy. Wisdom in the young is as unattractive as frivolity in the elderly. Some people are only funny when they try to be serious. It is difficult to stop the impulse to reveal secrets in conversation as if information had the desire to live and the power to multiply. You exist if and only if you are free to do things without a visible objective, with no justification, and above all, outside the dictatorship of someone else's narrative. The opposite of success isn't failure, it is name dropping. You don't become completely free by just avoiding to be a slave. You also need to avoid becoming a master. And lastly, there's nothing casual about a casualty. Oh, 3,000 people died, but it was casual. We were not dressed formally or elegantly, and we didn't mean it. I'll stop here.